Now, the affair of Nigel Farage's bank account has taken twists and turns. It's caused NatWest to lose its chief executive, Dame Alison Rose, last night, despite the board's efforts to keep her, expressing confidence in her leadership just 24 hours ago. What made her position so difficult was less the ousting of Mr Farage himself. It was more the inappropriate briefing against him, to which she confessed. But the whole way the bank behaved, the misleading briefing, the compiling of a 40-page dossier on a customer, the pushing him out on what do really seem to be completely political grounds, it's become a talking point beyond NatWest. How inclusive values, which are very fashionable in business, should be applied. Companies often strive for a progressive culture internally, for example, perhaps with the display of pride flags. And NatWest had really gone for that, for example, with this value statement.
We work together to achieve great things with our colleagues, communities and customers. We celebrate and respect everyone's strengths and differences and share our knowledge and experiences. We are committed to nurturing a fair and inclusive environment where we all feel we belong.
Now, that is very typical of what you will read on value statements from companies. But can the corporate enthusiasm for that kind of mission, can it bend the wrong way? Neil Bennett is the chief executive at H Advisors Maitland, where he counsels big companies on communications. Also on the line, Ashley Armstrong, the business editor of The Sun newspaper. Neil, first of all, has this been a talking point in companies? What went wrong here? Are we guilty of this kind of thinking that NatWest has admitted was a fault?
I think absolutely yes. It has been a talking point, and I think it will be a talking point for the weeks and months to come. We live in an era where companies, including banks, are expected to have a purpose beyond that making profit. We're not going back to the days of sort of rampant anarcho-capitalism. And companies and their boards always look at these purposes and these values and make sure that they're right and living those. But the danger is where the purposes go beyond the basic reason of a business looking after its customers and making money. And in this case, I think it's one where the bank and its senior staff got out of kilter and put those purposes ahead of looking after their clients.
Yeah. Ashley, do you agree with that? I'm imagining you do.
I think that it's fundamental. I mean, you've even had kind of the city watchdog saying, you shouldn't be debanking customers because of their political views. I think it's on the one hand trying to crowbar a corporate entity into something that's warm and fuzzy values, and there's another kind of holding your customers to that same purpose. It's at odds with what you're meant to do as a bank.
Sometimes people actually get very fed up, don't they, with what they'll call woke companies shoving pride flags in their faces and overdoing it on all of that. Is that your feeling about corporate Britain?
I think we've become a bit uncomfortable with not so much companies wanting to be inclusive, but this sort of rainbow washing that has gone on, where actually companies have been doing sort of performative activism in a way of kind of they feel like a bit like, kind of like somebody a bit older wanting to be hip and cool. They're latching onto something that they feel like they're useful customers, and they're constantly chasing kind of the youth coin, as it were. So they're kind of trying to find a way to be relevant again, and often it doesn't fit. And that's, I think, when you get kind of slightly meaningless phrases and a bit like the word salad value statements that you read out at the top. It's people kind of coming up with these ESG tick the box
environment, social governance, and investment standards.
And governance. That you're kind of meant to fit to as a modern company. I think that we all generally believe that there should be some environmental awareness. There should definitely be kind of a greater representation of diversity on board levels and in company rooms. It's when it becomes quite meaningless or becomes over the top, I think people have problems with it.
I think so. I mean, I think there's the flip side. My owners have us do a meaningful brands survey every year, and that shows 3 out of 4 consumers now expect businesses that they buy from to look after the environment and to have social awareness. So there is a need there for businesses to do this. It's a question of balance. And also, it's a question of when you have those values, live them. I noticed that the first value that NatWest states in its 5 values is inclusive. Yeah. Well, you're not being very inclusive if you chuck somebody out because you don't like their political views.
Yeah. Is it a turning point, do you think, though, that companies will find a balance? Because many people feel it goes too far, and many people obviously believe that this is a very good way for businesses to behave with inclusive values, putting an emphasis on diversity, trying to be modern organisations. Do you think this is a turning point?
I think it is a wake-up call to ensure that there's balance in these things, and the boardroom needs to look at how the business behaves and doesn't neglect its core reason for being.
Yeah.
And I think it also needs good external challenge because, as you know, large organisations get into groupthink and they all suddenly charge off in one direction, all believing this to be right. And you need someone to say, well, hang on a sec, isn't your real purpose to sell food to shoppers?
To make mayonnaise.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. I was going to say there is that famous case of kind of Unilever last year going slightly over the top and by trying to kind of get purpose into everything, and Terry Smith, the city fund manager, accusing them of trying to kind of imbue mayonnaise with purpose when really it's a sandwich filler. And I mean that I think that kind of encapsulated this whole argument of what should Unilever be doing. It should be selling mayonnaise because it tastes good in sandwiches and tuna mayo, not because it's going to fix food waste.
Ashley, thanks so much. Ashley Armstrong from The Sun, business editor there. Neil Bennett from H Advisors Maitland.